So, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced early on as a caregiver? I mean, for one, you were across the country, but how do you navigate these challenges?
First, I think I didn't have words for it. Language, caregiver, it's kind of a muddy definition, in our society. Does that mean this is your job? Does this mean you're a parent? I really didn't know what it meant to be leaning in to take care of my dad. I was starting to join every doctor's appointment. I was flying back every couple of weeks to check in on him. I was reading up until like 3, 4 in the morning on Alzheimer's and what to expect and some of the stages that we were going to be going through. But I really didn't know much about this. You don't go to school for family caregiving, especially when you're taking care of someone with a chronic illness. So it was a lot of education that was very informal in the very beginning. I went in under the expectation that like many of us, when you get sick, the thing that you need to do is just get a great doctor. And then once you've got a great doctor, they're going to give you some medicine and then you're going to be good and you're right back out on the field. What I quickly realized with Alzheimer's is that is not how it works. You are in a neurologist appointment once every 6 months, sometimes for about 15 minutes, and then you are back out again. And the biggest question at that point was, what am I going to do with my dad? And how am I going to be the best daughter I can and show up for him for those 5 months and 3 weeks, outside of the doctor's office. And so I had to apply a lot of the same lessons I've learned, growing up, building teams in big tech. How do I think about my team, my staff? What are the roles and responsibilities that are going to be necessary across my whole family in order to make sure my dad is safe? Very hard to do when you're living in a different state. You're dealing with different time zones. You're not there, so you can't see if something new is happening. So I was living a lot with that guilt, like, man, what happens? There's like something new that develops and I'm not around to see it. Do we have enough checks and balances in place to step in to make sure that my dad is safe? How do we make sure that he's feeling good about this whole experience? It's a very rocky emotional road to go down. My dad is super independent. So things like taking away the driver's license was a big devastating for my family. And then it brings all kinds of new challenges, which is like, okay, great. If my dad can't drive, who's picking up the groceries? Like, how is he getting to his doctor's appointments? How does he have any sense of independence? So we got him a bike. Like, you start to do all these sort of like mini problem solving solutions to try and stopgap a lot of the ripple effect of what happens when you're caregiving from afar and when you're, really on this journey together. I think if I had it to do over again, something I hear thousands of different caregivers who are now on our platform at Tender Care say is, I just wish I could have been a little easier on because at that point, you really think it's just your family. You don't realize you are actually in this experience with millions of other people. You think this is just a bad thing that's happened to you. And when bad things start happening, you don't realize, hey, this is actually expected. This is part of this process. You think it's because you've made a bunch of mistakes and that you just weren't a good enough kid. You weren't smart enough. You didn't research enough. You didn't put enough checks and balances in place when really there's no A in this. There's no, if you do these 4 things, everything's going to be perfect and just the way it was before. You're actually on a progressive journey. And, what you're going for here when you're caregiving is the best possible outcome that's going to be realistic across your family, across your loved one. That's a very different mindset than the way most of us live the rest of our life.